are places you visit once, and places that keep you coming back. If you're new here, my name is Julia, and my husband and I have been enjoying documenting our adventures in Switzerland. We visited last summer and were so impressed we've come back again. Last time we visited some of the most well-known places, but this time we're digging a little deeper. Over the next week, we'll be chasing new adventures, discovering some brand new locations, and revisiting some old ones. We're staying in Wengen again for this trip, and yesterday was all about travelling here and settling in. The journey to get here, that had involved 4 train changes the first time, had become 5 changes this time due to a line closure. And although this was a little inconvenient, it gave us the chance to travel a different route with interesting new scenery to admire. Arriving back in Wengen felt comfortingly familiar. Having stayed here before, we kind of knew what to expect. We checked into our hotel and had a relaxing evening recovering from the journey. We wake excited to start exploring again and decide to take a quick walk around the village to see some of the sights that made us fall for this place the first time. Wengen is car-free, meaning that apart from a few local service vehicles that pass by, the roads are generally quiet and the village doesn't ever feel too busy. The centre looks exactly as we remembered it, with its pretty recreational area and a main road that consists of restaurants, general stores and a few specialist shops. Even though we've been here before, we find ourselves discovering new things and details we might have overlooked on our first visit, like these pretty paths and streets we stumbled across on the other side of the village. There are plenty of quiet, winding paths around the outskirts, many with incredible views down towards Lauterbrunnen, and you'll often hear the faint hum of the cogwheel train that brings people and goods up the valley and onto Schnige. Next we head to the train station as we want to take a boat trip today, and we know the perfect place to do this. We're revisiting a lake that was one of the highlights of our last trip to Switzerland, Lake Brienz. This time though, we'll be stopping off at the pretty village of Iseltwald and hiking along the lakeside to Giessbach, where we've been promised the most incredible waterfalls. The ferries depart from Interlaken every 1 or 2 hours throughout the summer and take tourists up and down the lake. There are restaurants on board and you can choose to sit inside or out. I'm not very good at sitting still, so I've been moving about a lot looking for the best views. Iseltwald was a place we passed by last time, and with its beautiful waterfront, it really sparked our curiosity. Once you move away from the slightly touristy harbour and pier, there are some beautiful spots to sit and watch the boats, including this stunning historic paddle steamboat that operates twice a day in summer. The village itself has a peaceful feel, with pretty authentic Swiss chalets and intriguing alleyways. If you're expecting lots of shops here, you're going to be disappointed, but there is a general store and a few pretty restaurants dotted about. We find the path that will take us along the lakeside, and the views here feel like we've discovered something out of a fairy tale. The path follows the contours of the lake, occasionally dipping down to the water's edge. We pass through forests and glades and enjoy glimpses of mountain views across the sparkling alpine waters. We eventually arrived at Giessbach boat landing and decided to take the funicular up to the hotel and falls above. The funicular takes about 4 minutes and typically runs from April to October. Initially hydraulic, it was later electrified and has been used to transport people up to the Grand Hotel Giessbach ever since. From the top, we take a hike that winds through the woods and zigzags over the river and its waterfalls. We stop at an iconic viewpoint where you can walk under the waterfall itself. We take a wooded path back down to the boat landing where we get back on the ferry. As the boat pulls away, we sit on the open deck and catch glimpses of the spectacular wooded hillside, waterfalls and hotel. The rest of the afternoon is spent enjoying the views of this scenic lake. We've had an incredible first full day and we can't wait to explore some more. We wake to a beautiful morning in Wengen and we've got an epic adventure planned for today. We'll be travelling to what is often considered to be one of the most stunning lakes in Switzerland, Oeschinensee. It's going to take a few train journeys to get there, so we head down to Lauterbrunnen before boarding the train to Interlaken and then on to Spiez, where we change again for Kandersteg. It sounds like a lot of effort to get there, but we've found the trains in Switzerland to be very efficient, and with scenery like this, the journey can become part of the adventure. Once in Kandersteg, we realise that we will need to find our way to the cable car, and we discover that there is a shuttle bus that will take us right there. At the station, we buy our tickets, and as there wasn't much of a queue, we quickly boarded the gondola and sat back to enjoy the stunning views of the Kandersteg Valley. It takes about 10 minutes to reach the summit. And once there, you can either get a minibus to the lake or hike down. We chose to walk as the views were already quite stunning and the paths were wide and well marked. The trail led us through a forest and towards a popular viewpoint. Nothing can quite prepare you for your first glimpse of the lake. We took a winding and rocky path down the cliff which took us to the shores of the lake. We then joined the main path that climbs around the edge of the lake. From here we were rewarded with even more incredible views. We had planned to hike further up the mountain, but we noticed that clouds had started to gather over the higher peaks above us. We also wanted to have time to hire a rowing boat, so we chose to take the path back down to the lake. The boat gave us a completely different perspective on the mountains, this time looking up and feeling very small in comparison. Back at shore, we took a last look around us before heading back, this time along a different path. The cable car took us back down into Kandersteg, but as we had rushed through this pretty village on our way to the lake, we chose to walk back and take in some of the scenery. We thought Kandersteg was absolutely stunning and would have loved to have stayed longer. We've had an amazing day and have seen so many stunning views. But is it the most beautiful lake in Switzerland? In a country where there's so many incredible ones, that's still up for debate. Today we're venturing up another mountain, but this time we'll be taking a very different kind of train. We'll be travelling in these vintage open-air carriages and taking a classic Swiss mountain railway ride up to Schnige Platte. The journey starts at Wilderswil, and the first part of the journey is through lush forests and alpine meadows. It's not long before the view starts to open up and you catch glimpses of Lake Thun and Brienz in the distance. The views are already spectacular from here, but as we continue to climb, you are blessed with panoramic views of the Bernese Alps. The whole journey takes just under an hour, but every twist and turn seems to offer up another majestic view. Stepping off the train at the summit station, the air feels noticeably fresher and cooler. There are a range of different hiking paths that snake around the mountains here, so we headed back down and found ourselves at the Botanical Alpine Gardens. There are over 600 species of native Swiss alpine plants here in their natural habitat, and it's free to explore. Next we found our way to the Panorama Path. We took the lower path as the top one goes along a high ridge and looked a bit hairy in places. But it didn't disappoint and offered far-reaching, incredible mountain views. The path curves along grassy slopes lined with alpine flowers and offers incredible views of the Eigenmonk and Jungfrau. The path loops back to the bottom of the gardens where we started, and we make our way back to the train station. We've had an incredible day today and seen so many amazing sights, but then every day in Switzerland just continues to amaze us. We've done a lot of travelling around so far this trip, so feeling like we need to slow down a bit, we decide to revisit a place that made a real impression on us last time: Lauterbrunnen. Last time we came without a plan, but today we'll be taking a walk along the valley path, which promises some incredible scenery. From the train station, it's a 5-minute walk through the village to reach the start of the path. This hike isn't one you take as a challenge. It's a gentle stroll along a flat, accessible path that just happens to have the most incredible scenery. After about a mile, we took a wooded side path across a river and through a Swiss campsite. And I think this is the most perfect location for a campsite I've ever seen. There is a road that runs along the length of the valley, and in summer there are regular buses you can catch back to Lauterbrunnen. As it was such a hot day, we decided to take a short walk to one of our favourite spots. This pretty covered riverside bridge was the perfect place to cool down and relax whilst taking in the stunning scenery. And we couldn't leave Lauterbrunnen without venturing up to one of its most famous viewpoints. We find our way back to the station and enjoyed taking just the one train back up to Wengen. Today we're off to another place we've never been to before, Grindelwald. The adventure starts at the cable car station in Wengen, where we travel up to Mannlichen. We did this on our last trip, but this time we're not stopping at the top. We'll be getting another cable car down to the other side of the valley and exploring the popular village of Grindelwald. These gondolas are quite a recent addition, replacing the old 1978 cableway with modern 10-seater cabins. Unlike on the rather cramped Wengen to Mannlichen cable car, which can and often does hold up to 75 passengers, we were lucky enough to get one of these to ourselves. They say it's not the destination, it's the journey, and for the next 20 minutes on this ride, that's certainly true. The cable car takes you to the edges of the village in an area called Grund. Although this has its own charm, we wanted to see the village centre, and to get there you need to take a bus or train. We decided to take the train. We found the centre to be quite busy, but we think that there may have been an event on that had brought in the crowds. There are plenty of shops, hotels and restaurants along the main road, and the further up you walk, the prettier it gets. The shops and hotels are decorated with beautiful, colourful flower boxes, and the mountains make the perfect backdrop. The area is known as a gateway to adventure, and there are loads of adventure activities you can do nearby, but sadly we won't have time to try any of them today. The cable car had been quite expensive, so we took the train back. We felt we had only seen a very small part of what Grindelwald had to offer, and it's a place we'd love to explore more in the future. We woke this morning to grey skies and the promise of rain. For those of you who've been watching everything we've done so far, you'd be forgiven for thinking it is eternally sunny in Switzerland. Far from being deterred though, we thought it would be interesting to experience what the area might be like without the blue skies. We decided to take the train down to Wilderswil, where we had got the train to Schnige Platte a few days ago. We had a wander around this little village, and although it was evidently pretty, there wasn't much to see, so we decided to take the train back up to Lauterbrunnen to see if it was still worth visiting in the rain. As it's our third time here now, we feel it's quite familiar. But we wander in the opposite direction and discover a whole new side to the valley. We head back to the other side of the village and took a walk along the valley path again. As it was raining, the area was much quieter, and there was a kind of mythical beauty that encompassed the area. Low clouds hung over the cliff faces, and the waterfalls seem louder and more dramatic. In the rain, Lauterbrunnen still has a charm of its own, albeit a much more atmospheric one, and we were glad that we got to experience it as well. Soaking wet, we head back to Wengen for what will be our last night here. As our trip nears its end, and we set out again on the long journey home, we have time to reflect on our return trip to Switzerland. There is no doubt that it has been another incredible experience. But the question is, would we have done anything differently? Apart from holding my camera a bit more still on occasion, I think personally I would have liked more time to explore Kandersteg and Grindelwald. But because we had to travel significantly on those days, it kind of put a time restraint on what we felt we could do. So perhaps a few days staying at each of these might have been a good idea. Other than that though, we've fallen even more in love with this stunning country, and the more we visit, the more we want to return. We hope you've enjoyed coming along with us for this adventure. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions, and we hope you'll join us next time as we discover even more stunning places.